to leave them do the job themselves. They told me, you just stay right where you're at. They said there's no way they could do it. They didn't believe I could fill this up with concrete without it pushing out the bottom. But I got a very dry mix. I filled it around form here. I filled this up with concrete and it worked fine. It didn't bulge up at all. And that right there, we're done pouring. You can see the trucks are just stacked right together. And at this point, you can see the 2x4 across here that they were shaking it down. At this point, I went to lunch with my wife. It was 1:30 in the afternoon. I went to lunch with my wife, who was our accountant at the time, working at Boldick Group. And I just left these people there to do the finishing for me. This was the last I saw them. When I came back, the concrete was done and they were gone. I poured a little slab here. That's where this white plastic pipe comes under this pile of dirt. And we pump the water out and it hits right here. And so that way it doesn't wash the dirt away at this point. It's going across concrete at first, until the stream widens out and slows down. There, I took the forms out and you can see the concrete mound there. Now see, that winch is going to be sitting right in here, like that, and it's going to butt up against that. So when we're pulling on that cable across that head frame to lift this ore car, we're pulling against this mound of concrete, which has got 1¼ inch steel rebars in there. There you can see all the bolts. There's 70 bolts ready for the head frame, to hold the head frame down. That's Julius's vein over in there. At this point, I was out of the $340,000 that I had gotten from my partners, and so I was going to have to go back to Racine, Wisconsin and sell more shares to them. And this is the slideshow that I used to talk those people into buying more shares. Now, on the way to Wisconsin, my wife and I, who was expecting a baby, and I believe she was probably 8 months pregnant at the time, we went to Lade, South Dakota and Deadwood, South Dakota, to the Homestake Mining Company. Now, the Homestake Mining Company had been giving me advice over the years over the phone. And I've been talking to the president of the company, some of their engineers. They've been telling me what size shaft to build, what shape shaft to build, what I should do, what kind of ventilation system, things of that nature, and how I should pump the water. And so I stopped at the Homestake Mining Company and went to see the president of the mining company, Al Winters. And my wife and I were in his office talking with him, and I had a rock with, and he had a rock behind us in a glass cage. So I got up to look at his rock, and he said, we haven't had anything as rich as that in years. And as I was looking at his rock, my rock was on his desk on a blue sweatshirt, and he picked up my rock and looked at it, and he says, we have never had anything as rich as this. And he said to me, why don't you let us do the mining? And I said, well, I didn't realize that you would be interested. He said, we definitely are. And he put me in touch with their exploration department. Well, then I was quite happy about that, but of course they hadn't come yet. They hadn't committed themselves, so I had to continue on with my efforts. So we went on to Racine. I talked to my partners. I showed them this slideshow, and then the next evening they came back. I asked each one if they would like to buy additional shares, and every one of the partners there said yes. And so I sold $250,000 worth of additional shares at $10,000 per 1% interest to my partners at that time. And then we returned to North Carolina, and I went back into my mining efforts. Get this focused here. Okay, this is our completed pad. It's been sitting there now for, I don't know if it was 1 week or 2 weeks that we were gone. I believe it was just 1 week. Now this slab here is 1 foot thick, and that's, I don't know how tall that mound is, 4 or 5 foot high. And there's our shaft right there. Now I'm going to have to put the head frame on top of this and get it bolted down. At this point, I don't have the Home State Mining Companies in. I haven't even talked to the exploration department yet, and the vice president of exploration is not in the office yet. And so I'm purchasing equipment. I'm planning on doing the mining myself and the processing myself. So I'm locating all kinds of equipment. This is the winch that I had purchased. Now this winch I told you was made in 1942 to unload ships in New York Harbor, and you can see if a cable was coming off of this drum pulling this way, this bearing cap would be pulling off because these bolts would break. So I had to mount this winch on an angle so that we'd be pulling this way with the cable against this huge buttress of forged steel. So that's the way it's built to be used. This drum now has 650 foot of special hoisting cable on there that will lift 28 times the amount of weight that we will ever have to lift, with the ore car full and the elevator full with 11 people. I had to mount a 20 horsepower motor here, and I asked General Electric if I should rebuild that motor or if I should buy a new one. And they said that motor was made in 1942, and if you were to replace it with a new motor today, you would have to replace it with a 40 horsepower motor, one twice as large. They told me to go ahead and use the old motor. So I've got a 20 horsepower wound rotor motor, variable speed, forward and reverse, for this hoisting plant. That was made in 1942. Now it's brand new. It has never been run. I had it checked out, clean, had the windings re-dipped and baked just to make sure that there was nothing wrong with it. And it does work fine. This is just an old blower I bought from a mining company up in Cranberry, up in the mountains, for $10. It's one of my bargains I picked up. This is our Atlas Copco air compressor, 750 cubic feet a minute. I've now got a much larger muffler on top because I burned this one off from use. There's the air lines coming out. That will run a lot of equipment. It's got a V12 Deutz diesel engine in there, and it's brand new. There's my some of my air hoses. Excuse me. This is Joyce's vein. That's just the tip of it, right there. That's 2 foot from the surface there. But you can see the rust there because that's showing there's iron there. That's showing that there's iron there. And of course there's a lot of free gold in that rock. And we went back in there and took this rock out and put it in 5-gallon buckets, and it's piled all over the property. And this dirt is in piles, ready to be processed. And we will get the gold out of that dirt. Let's focus here. I believe this is the rock I took to Home State Mining Company. It's not the best rock I have, but it has some sulfides on it. It has some brown ore on it. It has some free gold in it. And this is what Al Winters, the president of Home State Mining Company, was looking at when he said he has never seen anything as rich as that. This is a solid piece of sulfides here. This rock here had a lot of free gold in it, scattered through it, that you could see with the eye. These rocks are in buckets yet. For some reason this keeps getting out of focus. Now I have to get this head frame down this hill. Now you can see I've driven up and down this hill with the excavator, and I have to set it on top of this collar here, on top of these bolts. So I dragged the head frame down the hill with the excavator very carefully, and then I also put the winch in place. I had a little chip of concrete to get out of here. It's going to be bolted just in that position. You can see it pulls up against that concrete